Oh, from New York, New York, you are listening to Extra Time. I'm Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, David Goss, Stefano Fusaro. Drum roll, please. Gonzalo Higuain. Matt Doyle is back.
I thought Gonzalo Higuain's been on the show every week and Federico went away.
I thought you were Pipa.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, just on age balance there.
I remember missing
bro,
all those
little boy.
goals in World Cup finals, but that's just me.
What's up, Doyle?
Huh?
How's it feel to be back?
It feels good. Spent some time wandering the beaches in Cambodia.
Pick up
Relaxing
soccer
a
in the
little
life.
bit, yeah.
And now as Leon progresses through the tournament, you've returned for
Yeah,
your
for
legendary
my team.
A big trade for your Galaxy Club as well. What's the? I need a list off the top. What have you missed about Extra Time? All of us. How long is that list?
I missed the 5 minutes of banter we do off the top of every
I
show.
knew that's what it was.
Absolutely my favorite part. I
Doyle's a
would
big
much
fan.
rather try to sell jokes
You
than
and
talk
Bobby.
soccer.
You and Bobby still text the group chat and says, "God, those 5 minutes off the top,
Yeah,
the most awkward of my life."
yeah.
Can't wait to get back to that someday.
I missed being here doing this show twice a week. It was I took some needed time off to recharge. MLS was great about it, and I appreciate that greatly. You guys were great about it. The first 3 weeks or so, I did not miss anything at all. It was good to have been unplugged. I needed it, but then slowly you start getting reeled back in. Then the Messi stuff happened. And that was around the time where I was like, I should get back into it. I should really get. But then I was like, man, they're working hard. I think Weeby's logging 120 hours a week. I'm like, maybe I'll take a couple more weeks.
Hey, you got it. You got it. No,
you're
good.
doing great, Andrew.
Yeah, keep handling it.
Moral
Love the
support.
content you're putting
Well,
out right now.
didn't you also have to grease the wheels of like, didn't you trade off your house to Messi's family and sort of like welcome him into the Argentine Miami community?
Yeah, it was exactly like
That's
that.
true.
That's what I thought.
Over under how many minutes till he's just like, yeah, I'm done with this already. I'm good. I'm over
Well,
it.
we're
If we
probably about a
continue
minute
on
and a
the
half
banter,
away.
Yeah, if we
We've
keep
hit
the
about 3.5.
banter going here, we could go to the asado part of that joke, but I'd probably just leave it be. All right, look.
Do you miss Weeby pounding jokes into the ground?
Why don't we do the show?
Sick. Your favorite World Cup style tournament continues, rolls along,
Very
right,
true.
Dave? It's
Very true.
it's the number 2 World Cup style tournament in the world behind the World Cup.
How about that?
Yeah.
Little known fact.
Well, there's Youth World Cups too.
And Women's World Cup.
Well, Women's World
Well, I
Cup
think
is
that
a
would
World
count
Cup. Yeah,
as the
that's-
World
yeah.
Cup.
Okay.
About
Yeah.
Senior World Cups.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is Leagues Cup World
Well,
Cup style
sorry.
tournament higher?
I'm sorry.
So we did
third,
go
third.
back into the banter.
Yeah,
Like,
third because the Olympics would be number 2.
Obviously,
Yeah.
which
Of course.
we're getting ready for.
Yeah.
Paris, oi Paris.
Get prepped. So 32 games left in Leagues Cup, all knockout rounds left. We're through the group stage. 2 teams advanced. 1 team fell flat. There are 3 CONCACAF Champions Cup spots at stake. I'm going to say CONCACAF Champions Cup over and over and over just as a tool to drill it into my head after years of CONCACAF Champions League. So it's changing. The format is changing. The competition is changing. Try to wrap your head around that. But there are
brand
3
is
spots.
changing just a little bit. Just a little
the
bit.
soul
from
is the
league
same.
to cup.
The soul is the same. Here's who've been knocked out. We have 9 MLS teams: Audi, San Jose, Seattle, Galaxy, St. Louis, Colorado, Austin, Atlanta, Montreal, Toronto. And then 6 Liga MX teams gone as well: Puebla, Chivas, Santos Laguna, Necaxa, Tijuana, and San Luis. Overall record: Liga MX against MLS. Liga MX with 13 wins, MLS 12, and then 3 draws. We don't talk about the PKs other than the points that confused us in the tiebreakers. Let's jump right into it. Best thing you saw in the final round of the group stage. Stefano, take us away.
The crew selling Lucas Zelarayan was absolutely kind of just a whirlwind day for crew fans, I think. They sell Lucas Zelarayan, arguably their best player, in the morning. And then that night, decide to smash Club América, probably arguably the most talented roster in Liga MX. Maybe not the results that they've seen, but the fact that they came out after that day where obviously fans are going to be down on their luck, down on the fact that their team, that Lucas decides to leave MLS and go over to Saudi Arabia. And then they come over and smash Club América. I thought that was just absolutely wild to see. 4-1, and maybe could have been more. I thought that was kind of just the most exciting thing we saw in this final round of games.
4-1 could have been more. Also could have been 4-1 America.
Right.
It was sort of sitting on a knife's edge there.
No, it couldn't
I
have.
could have. Yes,
No,
it could have.
no.
If America scores either of the goals that got called offside, you don't think that game has the potential to
No,
roll downhill on the
because
Crew?
honestly, once Columbus equalized, they were just the better team for the final 70 minutes. Like the first 20 minutes of the game, Schulte made a couple of nice saves, but these weren't tap-ins. Like those were actually saves you would expect a goalkeeper to make,
including the goal.
right? Including the goal.
Yeah.
Which I don't give him like full, he has to make that save, but it was a savable shot.
Yeah, like Club America, like they came out and they weren't going through the motions. They put Columbus under pressure, but Columbus just ended up being the better team.
I don't disagree. Rich Hernandez, noted Águilas fan, would say that they started a very half-strength lineup. But I've seen that game before, right, from MLS teams where they are the better team and it doesn't matter because
But you normally
the
see
Giant
that game
scores
in
and then it
Mexico.
just that's fair.
You
No,
don't
no, you're
normally
right.
See that
You're right. The
in
tides
a
have sort
home
of
game.
turned in the United States. It's not the way it was. I still
Or
have all
Canada.
the scar tissue, but
Yeah.
it's not the way it was.
And to be fair, Cucho was definitely the best player on that field
yeah.
by far, by a pretty large margin.
And that goes to the point that I think we're going to end up discussing as the year goes along. Lucas Zelarayan's a super talented player. He's not a very efficient player. He takes a lot of touches, extra touches in areas of the pitch where those do not necessarily serve him or his team. It ends up wasting a lot of possessions. There was none of that from the Crew last night. They were so efficient in the final third, specifically Cucho, but I thought Matan was very good. Christian Ramirez was very good. And then the whole thing about how Wilfred Nancy wants his team to play, everybody goes up and attacks, and we saw on the fourth goal, which is absolutely absurd from Steven Moreira. But I think there's going to be a little bit of a positive bump, a little bit of addition by subtraction, which is tough to say about a number 10 who's been as good in moments as Zelarayan has been. But I do think he has a propensity to bog the team down in attack.
Only if they replace the talent.
Right.
So I can
Right.
understand the fit. If they go forward now and you've taken Zelarayan out of the team and you don't replace a designated player level for them, I think it just becomes, it will never be the same as last year.
Yeah.
But I think you get into the Nagbe has to do more. Now he looks even worse. Someone has to carry the scoring. Like there was a reason when Cucho came in, they were better last year, even though it was completely different. So they can't just lose that. But I get what you're saying of they could find a cleaner fit. And if they can find a cleaner fit and end up recouping all of the money through Zelarayan to a younger player, that sets them up for the next 4 years with Cucho.
Because Wilfred Nancy is the coach that he is, who gets the best out of younger players, they have more margin for error in terms of what age
Right.
they want to pursue.
Like a
where they go
Facundo
shopping.
Torres, you would trust that he would be able to set a player like that up to be more consistent.
Right. Or say a Djordje Mihailovic, that type of talent, you could put him with Wilfred Nancy and get even better out of him.
But for now, just start Taha Brun. Come on, Wilfred. You did it with Ismail Kone. Do it now for America.
I love it.
Do it.
MLS Next reference, just in time on this one. It hurt for Crew fans. You saw the reaction when the news comes down. I did not see it coming, although I think any of us around the world right now who cover this game, care about the game, a 31-year-old at the end of their contract. I'm not exactly sure where Zelarayan was, but he's going to Saudi Arabia. He's setting his family up for a long time.
This is going to be his last bag, so get it.
Make it a big bag. He went and got the bag. And for the Crew, we don't know the fee yet, but if my memory serves correct, it was was it 8 million maybe?
Columbus Dispatch
7?
reported between 6 and 7 million.
Yeah,
for the
so
fee.
if you get your full fee that you paid to Tigres back in full for a 31-year-old that, let's be honest, they were not going to sell him for that amount elsewhere, in all likelihood.
So
And you have an open DP spot, and you have Tim Bezmachenko, and you have Wilfred Nancy, who now gets to make a choice as to where that money goes and what kind of player it is. I understand being very disappointed in the moment, but after you whooped up on Club América and started thinking about the full picture here, you maybe should be a little bit excited if you're a Crew fan. And that's no diss on Zelarayan at all.
they had Zelarayan under team control for the next 2 seasons.
Okay.
So it
that's
could have
not
been
as short as,
through
that's not as short as I
2025,
thought.
Yeah.
But if he comes to you and he says, this is my moment, okay, I'd like to make this move. Can you accommodate me? And all those variables are clicking into place for
I
the Crew.
grew up dreaming about playing in Riyadh.
I grew up
Could be true.
dreaming about not working for the rest of
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
whatever it might be.
Grew up thinking
His-
about that bag.
His great grandkid grew up not working, thinking about not working.
Right.
Made all that money.
And
But
that's fair.
the big point is we've seen some MLS teams enter into a sphere. I think LAFC is the top of the list, where if you're active in the transfer market with legitimate players at the right price, you can move them around and recoup value. And it's not, here's my spend, and then I get nothing back out of it. And I don't know that Columbus, being one of the smaller markets in MLS, but has spent high, that they were going to play Zelarayan's contract out and then spend again for the next Zelarayan from zero. So now as you recoup that, and then you talk about Nancy finding a player who fits his system, maybe finding a player more in line with Cucho's career arc now of he's 24. So you bring someone in around that of like, what's your entering your prime for the next 4 or 5 years. That's how you build a club. I think that's how a lot of MLS teams are going to have to operate. It's why the Toronto thing feels so outdated, because there's like no future return. Where look at Atlanta. Atlanta has a few different timelines, but Yakumaki's probably prime of his career going to be here for a while. Taro Amada is going to be sold. They're probably going to bring a player in to fit now that model to then sell. It's why LAFC keeps looking for young players.
I actually kind of wonder that. I don't think Atlanta will go out and look for the next Thiago Almada. I think they'll go out and they'll look for the next Nico Ladero. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
You don't think Yakumaki says that?
Well, I think he's the next rivalry Diaz, right? like Garth Lagerwey
Guy who
has
doesn't
gone
finish.
on the record saying like, here is the profile we look for, a number 10 who's had success in 2 countries.
So
and
if I'm going to pick at that scab just a little bit, and we'll get back to the Crew and all around, does that then make, in this roster building world that MLS is in, the U20s are your Thiago Almada spots? It's the
Yeah,
so
that's
it's the
where your-
Farias's that Inter Miami did, where it's like, hey, we take a big swing there that doesn't have to change our team, but might, and certainly has a better chance of doing it if we have 3 DPs.
But the
everyone
hope
I've talked to loves this Paraguayan kid that Miami
Gomez.
just, yeah.
But the hope would be that if you're Atlanta, for example, where what Garth did with Seattle, he had more restrictions in terms of spending, that you could also get the Almiron, which
Right.
is like production now and future sale, which is what Cucho is, and whatever Columbus does after this could be as well.
There's a personal side of this as well, Stefano. We saw it from Hernandez. Cucho went on Twitter and had a very this is
Don't do
No,
the
I
other
can't-
side. You're
but
gone.
that's-
I have to think about
but
it.
I'm not gone. I'm right here. This is
we're
I
doing
think
it.
this is the ETR one.
You could be doing
There
it
it
on
is.
this side. I wouldn't have been here for the last 2
Right.
months, right?
Yeah, there it was.
There we go.
I
There-
didn't
if
watch
you're not
the shows,
watching on
I
YouTube or Apple
assume-
Yeah, I've actually
TV,
been doing it every
quite
episode.
confused. It's the Dragon Ball Z celebration that Almiron and Joseph sort of coined in MLS, and now Cucho and Zelarayan have been doing it. Cucho had
There's
a
a
very
lot less rage
heartfelt-
coming from this side of the table than it has been over the last
I
3
haven't
months.
told you what's in this mug. I just filled it up right before I went on. I was like, ooh, nice and relaxed.
Keep him calm.
Pupils are
Cucho
dilated. Don't zoom in.
was very upset to lose his friend
Yeah.
and his running mate. There's a personal side of these things too,
Of course.
but it seems like the Crew have moved past it, and getting goals from Hernandez does that. Where do they go forward from here? And is it just, hey, this is the ultimate sign, this is Nancy's team?
I mean, I think we know that this is, we've seen Nance. We were talking about this before the show. Nance is one of those coaches, and in MLS, I think you can really see the impact of a coach more than in other leagues. And with Nance, just this, he put his, I think so quickly, was able to just, with this team, implement his style and move that forward so just seamlessly, even with injuries, with issues at center back, where they're playing wing backs at center back for half the season.
So great.
Which is great. And it was funny because Nance, in one of the calls that we had before a game I did with Columbus, he was actually talking about how excited he was to play wing backs at center back because he just loved it because everyone was just bombing forward, which is obviously what he loves. But as far as Cucho is concerned, look, we've seen Cucho play. Yes, he's a 9, but also kind of drop deep and have how many assists does he have this season? Yeah. So now that gives up a little freedom where obviously he's going to be finishing, he's going to be scoring goals. But without Lucas there, I feel like we could see Cucho kind of become more of a playmaker, more of a not just a finisher, and more of a kind of just drop back, be the guy that Lucas was, and help maybe Christian Ramirez be that out and out striker, and they could kind of interchange. And I think that's just going to give Nance even more options, which is scary, especially if they're bringing in a couple of other guys as well that could make it really interesting as far as that attack is concerned.
To the point about this is Nance's team, though, I think we won't probably know a lot of this up front. What will be interesting is the process, which was one of the frustrations for Nance in Montreal was he didn't feel like he got to choose his players. Not that they were selling players. He wanted to choose the players that were coming in and out, and who was above him in this still in Montreal, please. sporting director. For
Oh, yeah,
Olivier
yeah.
Renard.
Belgium. Yeah, there you go.
He's the one who chooses. Thank you. He
He's
hasn't
back.
been gone.
You know what? You know what? If Doyle wasn't here, we would have known. We would have known. It's like a crutch.
Right.
It's a crutch.
Just rolls up to Rucker Park, hits a shot off the backboard. The
Domino.
hook shot's still alive. So that will just be interesting, which is like, obviously, Columbus has had a lot of success with the signings they've made. They did really well with Cucho. There's a front office in place there that now has worked very well, but they haven't really signed a lot of players. Almost all the successes over the last 6 months have been Nancy saying, no, I can work with.
Matan being the
Well,
one.
Matan makes this possible, right? If you, in large part, they probably still could have done the deal, but it makes it, at least against America, and I think going forward, like even if in the next 2 days they don't get Diego Rossi, who's being rumored from Fenerbahce, or whoever it might be in that tight timeline.
I like that
Tom
rumor.
Bogert out here tweeting right before he came on.
Tommy Scoop.
Tommy Scoops on fire today.
Nancy's ability to get more from guys that thought less of gives him freedom and flexibility to choose the guy he wants.
I mean, Sean Zawadzki doing what he did as a center back is a perfect example of that. And like, it's not just Lucas Zelarayan who's gone. You look at it at the start of the season by trading Jonathan Mensah to San Jose. Eloy Room is gone. Eloy Room was a starter in goal for 4 years. Milos Degenek, a veteran center back who I thought was pretty good last year. He wanted to go back home and he went back home. Like, those are 4 veterans. And usually when a new coach comes in and they lean on the veterans a little bit. Nante's the opposite, and I think that this team's going to get younger. I think they're already more dynamic, but that's going to continue to be the case. And they are honestly the most exciting team in the league to me now because of how they play, because of Nante's ability to develop players. And it was awesome to see them. It was a landmark victory, 4-1 over Club América. Club América hadn't given up 4 goals in 136 matches.
oh, wow.
Anyone.
Wow.
How does Diego Rossi fit in?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you throw a 10 on Cucho and you give Rossi a 9 and you say Ramirez and Rossi up top because, you know, Rossi will run through the lines. He'll do that all day long. And then you put more of the game on you know, at Cucho's feet.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking Cucho drops back a little. If Rossi comes in, the pace on that front line is going to be a nightmare for any defender to play against. We haven't even mentioned Julian Gressel as well, coming in and just seamlessly coming in.
His first touch as a true player was an inch perfect cross that Ramirez somehow.
Well, not just
whiffed
Ramirez.
on.
It was who was on the back post
I think it might
as well.
have been Cucho
There were
missed
literally
on it,
2
too.
heads going toward it, and it was just like a razor thin margin.
So like the next time
Gressel looks around, he's like, "What? Are you kidding?"
next time down the field, he just puts it on Ramirez's foot inside the 6 yard.
Tried to set up Hot Boy.
Yeah.
What if Kevin Molino's the replacement for Zelarayan?
This is it.
This is what
We've been waiting for this moment.
3 years.
His fate.
Wilfred Nancy is not only a great coach, an orthopedic surgeon as well. Perfect. Love that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Gressel, we assume at wingback, right? As we
I
start
think
to build this
Gressel,
out.
and again, back to the point of like why you can do this, Matan. I think Gressel, the improved production you get out of that position now of like he can create for people, he can finish himself. You're going plus, let's say, 3 goals over the course of the season at that spot. Then you take away Zelarayan. Like, that's all why you can cover for this. I feel like if you bring in Rossi, those are the 2 forwards, is Cucho and Rossi, and you bring like a third 8, and you just have like a Robin Ludd type player where you just have 3 people essentially who work.
I don't think
wing
Christian
backs.
Ramirez comes out of the lineup at this point.
I think it would be wild to set your DP signings based off Christian Ramirez.
I mean, he's putting the ball in the back of the net.
The blind ball he hit for the counter yesterday was absurd.
Ask Minnesota fans 5 years later if they should have set their DP signings based upon Christian Ramirez.
What I will say about Christian, outside of the production that we've seen, it's very clear chemistry with Cucho. Right?
Yeah.
Like a very immediate and seamless understanding of like
their kids hang out.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, yeah. When your wives are tight, and you know that was tough for Christian too. Shout out to Christian. I thought he might like shed a few tears on the pregame show when he was talking about Lucas leaving, but
because that was the other thing. It's not just Cucho. I feel like he had a great chemistry with Lucas as well. I mean, we saw it a bunch of times this year where Lucas was just feeding him in the perfect spot more than once to either create a chance or score a goal too. So, but I mean, we saw yesterday. We saw that this team can do it without him in the lineup, and if they add someone else. Whether Rossi fits or not, I just think that you're giving Nance just that many attacking options, it's probably going to go okay. He'll probably figure it out with this.
Then it's 3 of 4 among if it's Rossi or whoever else.
Right.
Rossi, Matan, Ramirez, and Cucho. Jason Russell Rowe obviously pushing hard, Dave, on the back end of that. Just throwing it out there. Before we move on, we've sort of beat this one down, as we should when you lose a Lucas Zelarayan from the league. Doyle, what's the legacy that Zelarayan leaves? MLS Cup, and then obviously MLS Cup
2020.
MVP.
Like again, he's not my favorite player. All the reasons I listed off at the top of the show, no one can take away from him that performance in 2020 MLS Cup. That might be the single greatest performance in an MLS Cup we have seen in the history of this league. He was amazing.
One last thought, just because I have to get it in. Darlington Nagbe against America, just having America's midfielders on a string, like, oh, come get it. Oh, no, you can't have it. Come get it. No. Those moments from Nagbe, I understand people complain about, all the different parts of the field. Oh, final third. Oh, no. But Nagbe in possession is art, and to have him be with Nancy is a gift for Nagbe and for all of us that love watching him. All right, Dave, best thing you saw?
I forgot what my best thing was. So this was my best thing. On Tuesday, I don't know when days are, me and Kaylin did a bunch of previews for matches coming up, and we laid out the full scenario for if Seattle won exactly 3-0, it would go to goal differential, then it would go to goals scored and head-to-head. Everything would have been tied, and it would have been down to fair play. And I was like, Kaylin, I'm going to start you on that. What do you think about that? And he's like, there's no chance Seattle wins 3-0. So when Seattle went 2-0 up in the 6th minute, it was caps lock on in the group chat. You better believe. Also, the same day, I made Kalen record 3 previews for SKC Chivas because the Chivas Cincinnati game hadn't actually ended, in which he also was like, there's no chance Chivas comes back. And then Chivas scored that first goal. So I was on one for about 12 minutes, 14 minutes. Yeah. And then Monterrey smoked Seattle because Seattle's a fake team and they're not really competitive.
Wow. Anders is steaming now.
But there were 6 minutes. Those 6 minutes, we'll like in 20 years.
They were intoxicating. They really were.
So forget the jokes. Are Monterrey as good as they looked in the final 70 minutes of that game?
I don't think so. I think one of the interesting things about this tournament is you have teams that play, I think, a range of styles in MLS, and then there's more.
And Monterrey's style is to beat the hell out of both RSL 100%. And Seattle.
But they
7
are not
goals in 2 games.
100%. Well, one, they are set up against Tigres potentially, so you could do what you do at RSL, but Tigres have seen it before, and you have to do it.
But doesn't that still just mean that you're basically the second best team in the entire region? If Tigres is the only team that.
But they're going to play them in the next round.
Well, no, I'm just saying in general. Like if you're measuring teams against each other.
But didn't you just ask if they're going to win?
No, I asked if they were as good as they look.
Yeah.
I
was going to answer yes.
Yeah. So I have a column out today, the first time I've written a column in 2 months. And I went through.
And a tears column too?
It's a tears column.
God, you just returning.
On brand, yeah. So I went through recent CONCACAF Champions League, because it's not CONCACAF Champions Cup yet. I went through CONCACAF Champions League history in the TAM era, so 2016 onwards. MLS teams have a winning record against Liga MX teams in CCL if you take out Tigres, Monterrey, and Club América. If you add those 3 teams in, it gets grim. It gets grim really quick. And like that performance from Monterrey made me think of Sporting Kansas City, Monterrey.
Yeah, that was
5 years ago now.
Something like that.
It was 18 or 19.
Didn't you go with Cam? Wasn't that the one you went to?
No, that was a Leagues Cup match.
So this was.
I think that one was 7-0.
Yeah.
Oh boy. This was right after Sporting Kansas City had gone and beat the brakes off Toluca over the 2 legs, to the point where Toluca, the fans were olaying Kansas City, and everybody. And I thought, oh, it's happening.
We came out of that first round and we were like, the gap is close.
The gap is close.
Classic MLS CCL emotion right there.
Comes out and beats Kansas City over 2 legs. It was like 11-1 over 2 legs. It was brutal.
They beat Atlanta United that year as well, I think.
Yeah.
That Monterrey team.
And
they've
so,
won
like,
2 of the last. They've won 2 of the last 5 Champions Leagues.
So these 3 teams combined, right? And I think we're really seeing this in Leagues Cup this year. These 3 teams, the 2 Monterrey clubs and Club América, have won 8 of the last 13 Champions League titles, soon to be Champions Cup, and 11 of the last 24 Liga MX titles. Like, they have just been at another level compared to the rest of North America. And so to see Monterrey come out and go 2-0 down and then say, oh no, we're 15 minutes in, okay, we'll start playing. And it was just curtains.
Yeah. Now, in fairness, they had the lead to play with because it's a group stage.
Yep.
So it's not like they were 2-0, like they were, if we don't give up another, we're
and the
fine.
Sounders
Like,
had to push, right?
Exactly. They were basically at 0-0 at that point, or down 1-0 at worst. So I think that affects things, but they are lethal when they get their opportunities. But in this tournament setup, they play Tigres in the next round. They might play LAFC, or if they get through, they would have
Maybe
to play
Leon,
LAFC
TBD.
or Leon. Those all feel like bad matchups for them.
The thing that stands out to me about Monterrey so far, and also in the Champions League they've seen over the years, is the way that they take your desperation or your need for something out of the game and just completely manipulate it and turn it into your weakness and their greatest strength. Anytime you have to push for anything, anytime you take any sort of risk, they're like risk-reward internal tactical like moment in time mechanism is just perfectly calibrated of like, oh, that's what you're going to expose, beep beep beep, goal.
Yeah.
And the efficiency with which they do that is what I want to see from MLS teams every time we see, these regional losses happen. It's like, remember those 3 chances where you got in the exact spot you wanted to go and you missed the chance? Monterrey doesn't miss the chance, at least not often.
Not unless it's the Liga. It's weird
right.
because they've been so good for so long, but they've only won one Mexican title in the past 15 years.
A perfect example of what you just said is their opening Rayado's first game, Monterrey's first game against RSL. They completely were kind of calm. They gave RSL a couple of opportunities. They didn't capitalize, and then they just hit them back almost with ease. And then just they were never pressured in that game. And I feel like that's what you're going to see with Monterrey. I feel like even when they were down to Seattle, I feel like it was the same thing. They were just kind of like, all right, we got it. Don't worry.
Well, like,
and they did.
Gallardo, Romo, and Cortizo comes off the bench.
Right.
And then Cortizo immediately was just like, I'm just going to bang one bottom corner. Like, let's just put this thing away. Like, let's all laugh about it. This is a fun game. This is. Remember we were down 2-0? It's over.
Yeah.
It's over now. How about Brian White, though? You have a note here. I mean, I'm going to encourage you to go full list.
Yeah, I was stoked about this just because I think you look at a Vancouver team that trailed in both their games in the group stage. They get through, and this was a garbage goal. It's a cross played in right on Gald's body, but he obviously, bicycle kick, flicks it on. It hits Brian White in the chest, who then finishes it. But, this is what Vancouver is going to do at their best. They're going to be fairly direct. They're going to try and bang through the wall because there's not a ton of nuance to the way they create. I think Vite came off the bench to help create that goal because they have a little bit of rotation. It's gotten less since they lost Gressel. And it's one of those where they bring in Sergio Cordova. Obviously, Doyle's been hanging out with Sergio over the last few weeks, just trying to get him in the Duncan McGuire mindset. But Brian White's the guy. Brian White's the guy.
At some point, we just have to say, we give credit for beautiful, immaculate, out of the air blind touches. At some point, we have to start giving that credit to Brian White for ugly,
He's
think
better
they're
than
lucky.
Dejan Jovic, who you love.
No, I just
He's
don't
got
disagree.
better MLS
This is what
numbers
I'm
right
saying.
now than
This is what I'm saying.
Chicharito.
Like, it doesn't have to be
Respect
beautiful.
Brian White.
He's got his lunch pail out, and the ball's banging off, and it's landing on his feet, and he's finishing.
Yeah.
Vancouver through.
You think the Red Bulls miss having Brian White after what they've had at striker?
I just think about how many goals Tom Barlow would score for Vancouver Whitecaps. That's mainly what I think about.
Simon Betcher, how many would he score for the Red Bulls?
Betch would score anywhere he went. That might be the Zelarayan
Betch squad would be up for it, for sure. All right, Doyle, it's inevitable. What's the best thing you saw?
The Orlando City win over Santos, because everything we were just talking about how traditionally MLS versus Liga MX teams, how that plays out, where the MLS team throws everything they have at it, and they throw numbers upfield and they almost score, and then they go down the other end and they lose 3-2. That happened in the other direction in this game with that late Wilder Cartagena goal to make it 3-2 Orlando City win. I actually thought they were a better team than Santos in this one, and Santos is a really, really good team. Even though they've been a little down on their luck lately, this is not a joke of a squad, and I was surprised to see them go out. Yeah.
You're burying the lead here.
All right, so Duncan McGuire.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. He's got what? He's got 2 goals in 2 games.
Yeah, 10 goals on the season already. It's August 1st.
10 goals, 2 assists in about 1,100 minutes across
Wait,
all
counting Leagues Cup goals?
Oh, of
counting
course.
Leagues Cup. Well, not for
Double.
the Golden Boot draft.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like
I
the
was
rest.
just asking.
But I'm just saying all competitions. And remember, back in the spring, Orlando City season started with a home and home against Tigres in CONCACAF Champions League, and they got a very credible 0-0 in the first leg. And then in the second leg,
Heartbreak.
they're down 1-0. McGuire comes on with 20 minutes left. I think the rebound of his shot ends up being the equalizer. And then they almost won at the death. He had a late chance. He put it just over the bar. But it was like, I had forgotten about that series until this game against Santos. Because Orlando City's been like weirdly...
I'm looking through it right now. I think the best performances of the season have been Santos and Tigres.
Yeah.
They beat Philly in like a fluky. They scored 2 in the first 10 minutes
Yeah.
in Philly. Otherwise, they've beaten all teams at home you'd expect them to beat, like TFC.
It's been weirdly flat.
Yeah.
And Facu
Honestly, it
Torres
doesn't surprise
hasn't...
me that those are the 2 ones. With the way that they play when they're at their best,
Yeah.
like other team control the ball, have the pressure on you to create.
But this actually wasn't like that against Santos, I didn't think. Like they were like Orlando, it was one of those Robin Janssen games where like every pass is like a perfect Chiellini style dime, like either into a half space or like splitting defenders.
Pereira's goal
Was fantastic.
ridiculous.
Yeah, but like this team, like this felt like the version of Orlando City that we all kind of thought we would get this year, and we have only seen a couple of times. And look, the McGuire story is great. Like I think he is the best rookie striker I've seen in MLS, like period. And that includes Daryl Dike, Kyle Larin, Damani Ralph 20 years ago, another UConn guy. Like in terms of going direct from college to MLS with no stops in between, what McGuire is doing, like Orlando City's done it again. And once again, like they're gonna have to figure out a way to replace him, because I think this is a kid who's gonna get sold for, something close to what they sold DK for.
Can't believe O'Brien White got big up to like that.
If he had never gotten hurt,
I know.
if he had never gotten hurt,
Let's talk
he was
about that
so
for a
good.
while. Yeah. Let's talk about Bright DK and O'Brien.
I don't know if I'm going to hit any Huskies here, but I'll do my best. Best thing I saw, the more silly one, is that the Fire players in a pointless PK shootout, I mean, it didn't matter if they won or lost that shootout, they were going through. Just being absolutely frustrated, concerned about every little detail, every little call, and it reminded me, Sports Business Journal, $40 million. Win bonuses. I think we might have saw it in action right there. So just keep that in mind the rest of the way. This matters more than just competitively. There is a financial reward.
Well, now there will be no game or shootout that doesn't matter because it's a
True.
because we're in a World Cup style.
Yeah, the
Single
World Cup style,
elimination
yeah.
knockout now.
Where this is March Madness now.
NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Who's going to the 6-16?
We're going to find out.
Are they going to do the one shining moment at the end?
That is an idea that we should do.
Maria, do it.
Anders, Maria, run it up the chain. The other one I would have here is Veljko Paunovic thinking he escaped MLS and the misery therein, and then being dragged back down by Sporting Kansas City. The fact that Chivas are out.
It's a shocker. Chivas
Yes.
were great last year in Liga MX, and they made it all the way to the final in the Liga. They lost 3-2 to Tigres, and we all know how good Tigres are. And they started off the season. They started off the Apertura. They're 3 wins from 3. It's either 7 or 9 from their first 3 games.
I think it was.
They're also missing half their team because half their team was with Mexico at the Gold Cup
That's fair.
to
Maybe
start the year, which may have been a good thing based off Alexis Vega's
right.
performance. Eric Gutierrez hadn't even come into the team until
Yeah.
Leagues Cup, so maybe that all.
they
ruined
looked
it.
dead.
They
Yes.
looked disjointed, not like just awful, to be honest. It wasn't even.
Like
To be fair,
we've
they
been,
looked like Chivas has looked when they're bad over the last 5 to 8
Right.
years.
yeah.
Of like, this is lifeless.
But
no one
like
wants to be there.
it's shocking because up until Leagues Cup, they had been the best team in Mexico. Like it is
Tells you the
genuinely
level
shocking.
Leagues Cup demands.
Well, honestly, like
Intensity.
you're kind of memeing right there
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit, but we've been praising on all the shows that I've done, like the wrap up shows and the pregame shows. Everybody who I've worked with has we've actually said it on the air. It's like that, it's a new tournament. You don't know how amped up for it people are going to be. And like every team we've seen has been playing their hair's on fire. Chivas have not. Chivas came out and they looked slow. They never made Sporting Kansas City's center backs uncomfortable. And like anybody who's watched Sporting Kansas City tape knows that if you make those center backs uncomfortable, then you will have opportunities. And it was like, I don't know.
There's a lot of drawbacks to what SKC does, and Chivas didn't put their finger on a single one of them. They allowed SKC to do the things they did well. For your point, Chivas started the year 2-1 win over Leon, and then they beat San Luis and Necaxa. Not the toughest competition, but 3 wins and first place. And as you said, they made the final last year. So they're coming off good form. And bringing in Gutierrez, the idea was they had increased the squad rather than lost.
And I think
players.
Gutierrez is a great player.
Yeah.
But he has not looked it on the club level for a good long while now.
I'm going to have to go after the show and do a little headline front page digging in the Guadalajara sports sections.
Guadalajara is an Atlas town now,
just to see what they're saying about Velko and the boys. All right, that's the best thing we saw. We'll get into more from Leagues Cup, of course. Some other matches of note from this final group stage games. We have a team of the group stage. Anders has been locked in. We had a lot of debate about that one, so we'll get to it. We'll rank the regions that are remaining. Of course, West, Central, East, and South.
We should rename them as well. Everyone think now. Your region, you have to rename it.
How are we? Is it going to be? Do we have a theme like former MLS or Liga MX? Great.
I thought it was going to be like food, probably.
Oh, okay.
That's your stuff.
Yeah,
your stuff
that works. That works. Yeah, it's
Easy.
all good. Go through the best games, and then we'll tell you who we think is going to win this tournament because we'll be off and running tomorrow.
So mine's going to be the Rafa Marquez region.
Yeah, mine's going to be
Red
the Cuauhtémoc region.
In the West?
Yeah, the Cuauhtémoc.
But how is he out?
Shouldn't that be the Central? That should be the Central.
It'll be the El Matador region.
Okay, that's a good one. I was going to say, you actually have
I think
a couple
the
options.
West has to be...
no.
East is Rafa. East would be Rafa.
That's what I said.
Okay. And then West would be Jorge Campos.
Or Claudio Suarez.
El Matador.
Or El Matador.
Oh, we can do Matador, yeah.
Actually, Claudio Suarez he was here last night in the studios. He was doing Spanish language.
Yeah, it's been cool.
Pavel
Pardo's been rolling around.
Pavel Pardo.
Carlos Pavone. And I was
So
like,
again,
5-4 Giant
I'm
Stadium.
calling it the El Emperador region.
I think that's good.
Okay,
I
that
like
works.
that.
We've already done the segment.
Justice for Chivas.
Check mark complete. Okay. Some news here that came out right before we went on air. I'll just sort of give you what we know, which is what everybody else knows. 2 statements came out. The first here from the New England Revolution. The New England Revolution have put Bruce Arena on administrative leave as a result of an ongoing investigation being conducted by Major League Soccer into allegations of insensitive and inappropriate remarks. The organization takes any allegations of workplace misconduct extremely seriously and is working closely with the league and fully cooperating with its investigation. On the MLS side, the New England Revolution sporting director and head coach Bruce Arena has been placed on administrative leave pending a review into allegations that he made insensitive and inappropriate remarks. So Bruce Arena will not be on the Revs sideline as this review continues. If we have more news on that front, we will certainly pass it on to you and let you know. There is other news in the Revs world on, feels a good bit less important, but is important when it comes to the club, the competitive side of things. Djordje Petrovic, we've heaped praise on for what feels like forever since the moment he arrived. He is reportedly, per Tom Bogert, not training or didn't train yesterday. At some point, he didn't train. He's frustrated the Revs are not taking the offers that are coming in for him. Nottingham Forest and Nantes have both reportedly bid in the region of $8 million, which is about the number they got for Matt Turner. But Petrovic saying, hey, I'd like to go now. Like, you have the bid. Let's do this thing. And the Revs are saying, no, we will for sure sell you, but we're probably going to wait until the winter if we can. Tough situation.
Yeah, but it's fair for the Revs to say Matt Turner was older and had proven equal amount. And so why would they not expect more for Djordje Petrovic?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think my assumption would have been there's a conversation in which you're being brought in to replace someone that has been sold, that we will sell you. This is how we value you. This is our process. They don't have a replacement in line on the team. So if they do this, they will either need to bring in the next Djordje Petrovic, which is like an unknown, or probably go and try and find something veteran in MLS to cover. We saw Earl Edwards sort of get a shot at it a little bit in between when Matt Turner got hurt with the U.S. and never really came back. I think that at the end of it, the assessment was he's not a full-time starting keeper. So that's the other frustration for the Revs is they're second in the East. They're into the next round of the Leagues Cup. It's kind of hard, but at the same time, a lot of European teams, which is where you think Petrovic will go, they're going to do their business now. So
Trying to think of names.
Josh Cohen is the name I've heard. So
that would be a good one. I was thinking of it in the league. William Yarborough was one I was thinking in the league because
Alec
the Rapids
Kahn.
went and got Illich, is that his name?
yeah, who never plays.
Yeah. But they signed him permanently. Like they got the loan and then they made it permanent. So the Rapids.
I think Alec Kahn's an obvious one. Eli Room's now gone, so he's not really up there. This is normally a pretty deep spot, and it's not right now. Like a lot of teams don't have a backup that you'd say is a starter. Ryan Mears has been in New York forever. Maybe you take him on loan or something like that. TFC have given away everything they've signed, so maybe Sean Johnson, if you want to invest that money.
Our producer Maria says bring in Memo Ochoa.
PSG's own Memo Ochoa?
Come on. Keep the Leagues Cup theme going.
Taylor Navas.
All right.
There you go. Or Matt Turner.
Just
think
bring
Matt
him back.
Turner's
Yeah, it
looking
seems
for
like
he's
he's looking
looking
going
for-
to Nottingham
yeah.
Forest. I say bring in Nahu. Just go to Tigres, make the big move. Need him
Yeah,
in
right.
MLS. What do we think about the idea? And it just occurred to me as you were like, well, it's a different situation. You're younger. I mean, this is sort of what some Crew fans were yelling about with Zelarayan being sold at this point. Like, hey, why are you doing that versus Vasquez? So take us kind of through the math on some of these transfers as MLS fans get used to being in a different world where 2 days from the transfer window, your best goalkeeper, your number 10, might get bought and sold. Like, what are clubs thinking? What's the math going into it? What's the reality for us in this sort of new phase of Major League Soccer?
I mean, teams have a number, right? This is a business, and I think everything there's a price on everything, and the fan base's price is probably different from the general manager's price, which might be different from the owner's price, which is also definitely different from most players' prices. And guys who grow up in the U.S. and Mexico and South America, and guys who grow up in Europe but end up here for one reason or another, all mostly have the same goal, which is to get to one of the top leagues in the world. And I think at this point, to get to the Premier League. And it's Premier League teams coming calling about Djordje Petrovic.
And Champions League.
And Champions League, right? When those types of teams come calling, you get into a situation where you might have an unhappy player. And teams are going to have to figure out how to do this. And to their credit in Cincinnati, I think they probably had some very candid and very open conversations with Brandon Vasquez. And he's been a pro about it, and they've been pros about it. And I would expect that to be resolved in January. I'm not saying that they didn't have those conversations in New England, but you could understand why. You could understand why Petrovic might be feeling a little bit.
There's a big difference between talking about it and then the reality comes and there's a bid on the table and he's like, oh, no, I want to go.
This is the contract that I
let's do
want
it.
to sign.
Yeah.
This is the city I want to be in. This is the team I want to be with. I think for a lot of players, too, it's reasonable to say, well, I want to get to preseason. Like, I don't want to come in January and have to fight for a spot in an established team. If I'm going to go here, I want to have a fresh slate. And I think the tough part, but Cincinnati's a good example of like, teams are going to have to figure out how to plan out where they're not on top of each other, where it's not we fight for a trophy and then in July, everyone leaves. And that's what I think for Cincinnati. It's like Brenner happened.
Yep.
Feels like Brandon Vasquez will happen and maybe Barreal in the winter. They're hopefully going to re-sign Lucho long term. You've got Nobodo already there who's going to stay. Bupenza. Like, you have to find ways to segment it out so it's not your team falls off a cliff and you got to rebuild everything on the fly. And there are going to be players in different situations, which is why it does make sense a guy like Carlos Gil, where you talked about for most people finding that top 5 league or Premier League. Carlos Gil already did that thing. And I think now it's like he's comfortable. He's happy. If you can make him enjoy the soccer you're playing, he'll stay. So then you get a guy who will stay and then you can sort of build the other pieces around it. That's going to be what team building is in Major League Soccer and figuring it out, because you're not going to be at the top of the pecking order.
And you're having to time with other clubs' timing as well. I mean, it's not just, hey, we need one, we'll go get one. The situation at that other club has to be the same where, oh, they're willing to sell at that moment, or the offer you make is big enough. Like, there's just a lot of strings being attached here. It's a spider web. By the way, I found some headlines. ¿Qué está pasando? Says Esto. What is happening? America is one of the clubs of Liga MX that have been humiliated
This is what's class is Club America came in, I think it was Djordje, but I'm not 100% sure, saying, well, we're not even that worried about this competition. And I was like, wait till they lose.
Yes.
And so now they've lost in the group stage in a way in which they get the little preview of like, I assume everyone in the team today is like, we don't want to lose this thing. We don't want to actually get knocked out and have to go home and deal with it.
It's also classic Mexican media too. At the start, they were sort of like, oh, this doesn't matter. What is this? We don't even know the name of this tournament. And then a couple matches in, they're like, a headline on Chivas, para llorar. Like, basically like crying, like you're ridiculo. Like, you did this to us? You know, Puebla lost. And they're like, how could you? It's like,
well, Puebla got annihilated.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, with an up a man.
Yeah,
that's great.
That was embarrassing.
Shout out Minnesota.
Yeah.
All right, quickly, let's hit some other results before we turn into the round of 32. Any other matches in this final round of games that stick out to you, Stefano? We have Austin being knocked out by Juarez, Tigres San Jose, Cruz Azul celebrating the championship of the group that they finished second in against Atlanta.
I feel like the Cruz Azul celebration after winning against Atlanta United on PKs.
Pressure,
I mean, Tuca Ferretti, obviously a legendary manager, was on the hot seat for that game, basically being told he has to win that game somehow to advance to keep his job. But we mentioned it obviously earlier that the pressure's not going to just go away now just by winning that. But I just thought that it was so funny to see how, because we've talked about how, maybe earlier, and especially with the media in Mexico saying, this tournament, whatever, whoever, to then celebrate that crazily. And obviously in Atlanta, beating them on PKs was funny to see, but also, I'm not going to say sad, but also just kind of like, all right, this is where they're at now. And I don't know how positive that is. And that pressure's not going to go away for Tuca or for the players.
As I say, you flip to Atlanta as well.
Yeah.
Two very big clubs that are in a desperation. What?
Nothing.
No?
It's just Atlanta.
Look like you just ate something that poisoned you.
Nice. Atlanta's just been anointed as like they're relevant. They've been irrelevant for 3.5 years.
Wow.
Is that a right number? Is that a correct number?
3 years.
Can you
3
be
years?
irrelevant in Major League Soccer if you have a superstar player?
You can if you're Atlanta somehow
makes it.
And maybe Almada has shifted that. This is the most relevant they've been this year. They're 7th in the East. Like they are in the playoff race. But it doesn't matter because for 3 years we've done this of like Atlanta's a big team. What are we going to do about Atlanta? Like, oh, this is a big game. They're facing NYCFC this weekend. That's a big game. It's not. They have not been a coherent soccer team since Tata left from front to back. And everyone's like, how are they going to slow down Messi? How are they going to slow down Messi? They don't even have central midfield.
Frankie Amaya put 2 on them.
Yeah, how are they going to slow down Messi? Yeah, same way I'm going to.
I like Frankie
what
Amaya,
are we
by the way.
talking about?
It's not a dig there.
You would at least foul Messi. They didn't even foul
You
Messi.
better believe.
Yeah.
Messi's getting my signature.
They were giving him 20
in
yards.
the side of the shit.
Oh my gosh.
The Adidas mark.
By the way, Cruz Azul has Charlotte in the next round. Atlanta has nobody because they're eliminated. Jamal Thiaré, a 30-year-old Senegal striker from Le Havre, League 2, I think. They're now up to Ligue 1, but I think he helped them get promoted, and now he's moving as a free agent. Is signing with Atlanta. 31 goals and 18 assists and 129 appearances across all comps. I think it's maybe the contract's through 2024. So yeah, we'll see if that helps them down the stretch here. Tigres San Jose. I thought that was a good match. San Jose played well enough to get a result of some sort, but didn't finish the opportunities they had. Tigres feel like Tigres, which is just in like third gear chilling.
Do you have any juice for Iowa, Canola, San Jose? You weren't here. Well, actually, you just got here. So
I
say you weren't here.
I really liked what we saw of Io, but that was 3 years ago. And he's had a couple of injuries since then, and he does not look fit when he's on the field. And there's a reason this Toronto team that needs any silver lining they can find was basically willing to give him away.
He's Atlanta United of center forwards.
No, that's
ouch.
Yikes.
Well, I talked about 3 years of irrelevancy, and then I asked you about a player that has been irrelevant for 3 years.
So I'm gonna holster all the troll jobs on Austin right now and ask a real question. Juarez beat them 3-1, and Austin go out with a 6-2 deficit to two of the worst teams in Liga MX last year. But Tom Bogert, literally right before we went to this studio to tape this, said, breaking: the Galaxy have acquired winger Diego Fagundez from Austin pending MLS approval. Austin to receive Memo Rodriguez and $300,000 in GAM, potentially another $600,000 GAM in add-ons. Big signing for the Galaxy, flexibility for Austin. Fagundez signed a TAM contract extension after his big season last year in Austin, and things just kind of didn't work from the start, both on the field. And I also remember a moment when Josh Wolf publicly was demanding more of him and he had been benched for a hot second at that point. Anybody have any?
I think it's
thoughts off the
phenomenal
top?
work from the Galaxy. Like let's say
Even committing to that long-term contract, you're good because you're taking the contract as well.
Yeah.
He's just asking
He's
questions.
28 years old. Austin just gave up $500,000 for Matt Hedges at the back end of his career. If whatever you're going to value Memo Rodriguez at, which is borderline starter, so probably below that number. If you hit the add-ons, that means you're doing well.
Right.
If you don't hit the add-ons, you've given up basically roughly a package of about $600,000.
You'll pay the add-ons. Happily, they will pay those
Yeah.
add-ons.
Yeah.
So basically, the package is roughly $600,000 to get a guy who's well above starter level in a team that cannot go out of the league and acquire legitimate players right now. And I think is a player who fits in with what they want to do. He's going to come inside. They've signed like 18 fullbacks. It's the only thing they have. He's going to come inside. He's going to link up. He's going to help you break down teams in a low block. Their possession doesn't lead to enough. And then their possession leads to turnovers where they've committed too many numbers and they give up goals. They need to go get center backs. Gaston Brugman's out for however long. Mark Delgado's out. This team's probably not going to turn around, but I think that package for Diego Fagundez at this point is a solid pickup for a Galaxy team, which we thought everyone would price out and say it's double because you can't go get anyone else.
Yeah. I think it's a good pickup, not just for this year, but for 3 years. So you don't have to worry about that spot now. And you can recruit over him, right? If you end up, someone wants to come who's, an absolute star, okay, you could recruit over him. But, it's not going to be a weak spot anymore. And that's huge for LA. For Austin, I think this is the start of the roster trying. This roster is going to get remade, right? Rodolfo Borrell did not come from Europe to sit on his twiddle his thumbs and not make the roster in his own image. So I think this is the start of something that's going to be significant, and then it's going to be probably happening over 3 or 4 transfer windows. And by the time it's all said and done, I'm excited because he's got that Barcelona DNA, and that's my favorite style of soccer to watch. And I think Austin have done some of that at times, but it's not who they are for real. And I hope that they get there because more teams that play with the ball and use it to win, the better.
I can't see them winning this year without Fagundez. I think we saw it when he was out early on and even coming back and it not working. They're still so much better because it allows Djordje to get off the ball.
I agree, but they're up to 5th in the West. It's wild. It felt like they're dead in the water. Of course, they're like 3 points out of 12th. The West is
Right.
ridiculous right now.
And they just got knocked out at the group stage of Leagues Cup.
By
which,
Mazatlan.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we think
Juarez.
that them making that move is kind of just punting, even though they're still that close? I mean, or do they think that Memo will fit better to what they want to do? Be like you said, mentioned getting Djordje a little bit off the ball. Does it make more sense? Fagundez was clearly one of their top players.
I don't think Memo makes sense in terms of filling in. I think Memo's a solid, reliable MLS player. And
Agreed.
if I was like, oh, someone's going to give me a throw in, I would take Memo Rodriguez coming back to Texas. But yeah, I think the timing of this, it feels like it's a lot of off-field stuff.
I mean, I'm not even
doesn't
sure
fit.
Memo's there to start.
No,
right?
no. There's just a piece in the team. Well, they
had
Reddish
issues
and
when
Riccone.
Owen Wolf was gone for one of the most important World Cup style tournaments in the world.
Yeah.
They had real holes at central midfield.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't have the depth to fill it in, partially because they're having to play Alex Ring on the back line and all this other juggling. But
The one that I'm really curious about when you talk about resetting the rosters, I think Danny Pereira's Owen Wolf a bit, but I
Danny
think Danny
Pereira's awesome.
I think
Yeah,
he has
he
a
has
lot
value.
of value. I'm
Yeah.
very curious to see what someone coming from Europe with those connections,
I mean,
where he ends up.
to me, if you're going to reset the roster, you reset it around that 3-man midfield of Pereira, Owen Wolf, and Drews.
But we just talked about if you do that and it works, then Pereira's going to go.
Yeah. And Owen Wolf's going to go. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think instead you take the asset you can get for these players and you use that money to reset the roster around a next generation of guys. I would be shocked if anyone but John Gallagher and Djordje are on this team. The other thing to throw in there, and it's I don't blame him anyway, but Stuver, especially in the Leagues Cup, he was borderline the best goalkeeper in the league. He kept them at a different level. He was brutal in Leagues Cup. He's been tough this year, and so they don't have this magical wand that they can wave and say, yeah, we gave up a ton of XG and we weren't that good, but we still were able to get results.
I mean, fair. It's the same for Driussi. Like everything was magic last year, and he's still a great player. It's not that way this year. Obviously, no Austin players in extra times. Team of the Leagues Cup group stage, sponsored by Lists. So goalkeeper Carlos.
We gotta get a post-it company. Or
We should something.
Yeah.
Like a whiteboard, you know. Carlos Coronel is our goalkeeper from the New York Red Bulls. Huge penalty save. The Red Bulls trying to Red Bull it, trying to throw it away. John Tolkien fouling late against Atletico San Luis. Had San Luis made that, Red Bulls would be out. As it is, Carlos Coronel saved them, and of course was big against the Revs as well. Our left back comes from Tigres, Jesus Angulo. He scored the winner on the back post against the Portland Timbers. Jack Elliott of the Union gets in at center back. Steven Moreira, wing backs playing center back. God love him. He makes it as our right center back.
If you have not watched the highlights of the Crew win over Club América, go pause this, go watch those highlights, and make sure you stay to the very end because Steven Moreira did something special on that last goal.
He makes a run into the right channel to set up Cucho's goal, and then he makes his own run into the left channel to score his own goal. Because he is a false roaming number 10 center back, fullback.
Yeah, I mean,
hybrid.
Yeah.
Jake Davis of Sporting Kansas City is our right back.
Justice.
So yeah, we had some debate there, but we felt Jake deserved that spot. Marcelo Ruiz of Toluca, who was insanely good in the group stage, makes it a center midfielder. Aldo Rocha of Atlas is there as well. Cucho, attackers, just mixed bag here. Of course, our number 10 is Daniel Gazdag, Philadelphia Union fans. We would
best number 10 in the league.
Best number 10 in the Leagues Cup. Don't look at me. Cucho's our left wing. A right wing is some guy named Lionel Messi, and then Herman Berterame is our forward, who is absolutely killing this competition. Five goals
and an
so
assist
far
in 2 games,
and just class.
Yeah.
Just very, very classy finishes, movement.
That Messi
passes.
guy's gonna have to work hard to cover for Gazdag and Cucho because those are free light. You gotta give them lights.
Yeah, and this all-star team, somebody's got to carry the water.
It's got to be that Messi.
Honorable mention: Bongi, Robert Taylor, Cesar Huerta, Elias Hernandez, and many others.
Reynoso.
Oh,
I was actually hoping.
We booted Reynoso out. That's how much we love Gazdag.
I was going to say I was really hoping that we would get Reynoso in this 11. So
I thought we changed the formation to add Reynoso.
That's what I thought too.
I thought so too.
Because it was that was an easy joke, right? To just make it's obviously Messi the second best Argentinian number 10 in the league.
Right. Anders was so committed to this team, and then he let the details just fritter away from him. All right, let's talk about the regions.
Anders,
the round of 32.
I would say Anders started up 2-0 in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Bringing that back.
Yikes. So, schedule going forward here. Leagues Cup knockout rounds kicking off. LeaguesCup.com loading. Just help me out, LeaguesCup.com. Okay, so today's our day off. Then tomorrow, Miami, Orlando get things started at 8 p.m. That's fitting at Drive Pink Stadium. There's a full hour pregame on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV on site. Mazatlan, Dallas, Pachuca, Houston, and then LAFC, Juarez are going to be your first 4 games on that first day of action.
All 16 games.
We be preemptively skipping Saturday's extra time taping because he will not be able to handle it when Duncan McGuire scores a hat trick tomorrow and knocks out Messi in Miami.
Going to the beach, baby. Going to Asbury Park again.
That's
After Tom
place.
Introduced me to it.
It's a great spot.
Whew.
I hope that Busquets' first question post game is, "What'd you make of the movement of Duncan McGuire?"
We couldn't keep track of him.
Yeah.
If
didn't
you're
see it
watching,
once.
Movement's a nightmare.
If you're watching on Apple
love
or
that.
on YouTube, you're seeing the full Leagues Cup bracket. Honestly, every time I've seen
Look
this
at
get
us with
updated,
graphic
it's
elements.
awesome. The different, the different crests, the different colors, the different matchups. It's thrilling.
We be your KU guy. You love a bracket.
That's right.
A round of 16 loss.
Either I'm gonna throw myself off something after one game, or we're gonna go all the way, baby. So
Who's our Northern Iowa?
who is the North? Good question. Good. We'll examine that as we hit the regions here.
Wait, he just got 35 more minutes of
Oh
content.
yeah. We could go through a lot of different teams that.
Here, I'll
that did
unplug
that,
his
yeah.
laptop so it'll die before.
All right. If you did not do the Leagues Cup bracket challenge, all good. All good. There's a second chance bracket for you to win $3,000. LeaguesCup.com/bracket challenge. Go make your picks for the knockout round.
I did it.
I did it too.
Yep.
Cool.
I did it too. So I have my winner coming up later.
Okay. posing this question to the panel here. I'm giving you
Panel of experts.
Monterrey, Tigres, and Club America versus
the field.
Versus the field.
Woo.
Man.
I think that
Probably going to take Monterrey, Tigres, and Club America.
I would take the field.
But they're in the hardest. They're in the hardest bracket.
Well, I would take the field because Tigres and Monterrey will have to face off in the round
So
of
they'll
16.
knock each other off.
And what am I allowed to say? Who I
Believe in the Chicago Fire.
I have the Philadelphia Union winning the whole thing.
Okay.
So
Good
in
shout.
that situation, I have Miami, LAFC, and Philly in the finals. I should take the field.
So you're taking the field.
Everything tells me to go with Monterrey Tigres, but I'm going to go with the field because I think, like you said, we're going to have one of those out, and I think Miami does it.
Wow.
Somebody's from Miami. I have Monterrey winning it. So I'm sticking with Monterrey, Tigres, and
Do you have Club
America.
America making the semi?
I don't. I have Columbus knocking them off.
Wow.
Coming back. No
So you're
revancha.
really
No
right.
revancha for you. Aguilas. What would you take?
I think I would take the 3 Giants.
Okay, so it's-
And we're gonna have to rename it because like Chivas, Pumas, Cruz Azul aren't really Giants anymore.
Well, here's the
if
thing.
you look at those teams over the last
When you have a
15 years,
producer
drag
who's
them.
a Pumas fan, all you hear is about the Cuatros Grandes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is it, 1961?
Right.
Ouch.
You know who the most successful Liga MX team is over the past quarter century? Nobody's gonna get this. Throw out a guess.
say it again.
Most successful Liga
What is
MX
that
team
basis? Like won the most titles?
won the most titles both internationally and league titles.
In how many of the last years?
25 in the last 25 years.
Toluca.
No, but that's really good because Toluca were
Santos
nails
Laguna.
that's a very good shout as well though. It's Pachuca.
Oh,
Ah, yeah.
Pachuca have 7 titles over the last 25 years. I think 4 or 5 Champions League
I think
titles.
they won 3
And
in
they-
a row with Chaka.
Yep,
right?
and they won Copa Sudamericana in
yeah.
2007, and they're
wow.
the only CONCACAF team to
ever
win a
win.
Common Ball.
Which, by the way, Tigres having not success in international, going to a Copa Lib final
Fair.
is like its own standalone
and
thing.
Club World Cup final.
Yeah, but that one.
well, speaking of Tigres, let's start with our West region. Doyle, guide us through what you see
Name
in the
it
West.
first.
Yeah, it's murderer's row. Tigres, Vancouver, Monterrey, Portland. We've already kind of designated that to be the Monterey Derby in the round of 16, but it could end up being a Cascadia Cup clash.
If Vancouver comes out of that little region and you guys all just talked about field versus the
It would be
three,
amazing.
I
That would
will
be incredible.
Like both of these teams are prohibitive underdogs. I think LAFC are clear favorites over Juarez. LAFC have not been good since the CCL final loss to Club Leon, but you would hope that they would get their mojo back.
Got some
and-
fresh legs.
Yeah, some
Juarez
time
also are in the best moment of, I think,
Ever.
maybe other than the promotion season that they
Yeah.
had, probably the best moment ever in club history.
An old friend, Bofo Salcedo, playing well for them. And then Club Leon, who by definition are one of the favorites. They're the CCL winners, right? They're the reigning champions of CONCACAF.
That sound you hear is RSL supporters rushing to Twitter to say you didn't say RSL.
Well, I didn't finish
I know,
my
but
thought.
I
You
was just
interrupted
imagining.
me.
Yeah, it was just.
So the thing is about RSL, the lesson that they got, the lesson that they got from Monterey,
Yeah.
that's going to be very applicable
Agreed.
to Club Leon because we saw Club Leon against LAFC. They did to LAFC what Monterey did to RSL, and like every season over the past 4, I've written RSL off too soon. And I have to give credit to Pablo Mastroeni. He gets those guys to buy in. I think they're more organized this year than I've seen in the past. They can still get stretched out. I don't like how they defended in transition, which Angel Mena, he feasts in those situations. But they could win that. They could win that game. And then if they end up playing LAFC in the next
Team
game,
they're comfortable against.
yeah, they're not going to be intimidated at all.
They have been good in knockout competitions.
Yeah,
But
but
it feels like that portion of the region they could make a run through if they can get past Leon. I
Yeah.
think that's the question mark more than past that is can they just get back 2 games?
right. But I still think the smart money is on Monterey or Tigres coming out of that region.
no Victor Davila.
the mission
we
style
assume,
burrito
for Leon?
region? Is that what we're going with for name?
I like that.
There you go.
Well,
I figured
that.
Doyle would
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I think
that was for you. I don't even like that.
So we're naming the regions after food.
Yeah.
Is that what
Yeah,
we're doing?
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
that's-
mission,
that's-
not
that's
mission
players.
burrito.
what do you got?
South?
Okay, we're doing Central
have
next.
South.
I'll
Yours
do
is
Central.
wide.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I can kind of go in a lot of
Yeah,
directions.
I'll just
It's
easier.
Cubano,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
Yeah, come
I'll
on.
do Central, so you guys think on what you want.
It's like half Texas teams. He's gonna go with Cubano.
Okay, so let's hit the Central
Oh, yeah,
region. The look, it's America versus the field, sort of in this one. Cincinnati probably add to that as well. Columbus, Minnesota, Toluca, Kansas City, Chicago, America, and then Cincinnati, Nashville, setting up for a potential Hell is Real in the quarterfinals, or a potential rematch of that group stage match between Columbus and America, or something completely different entirely because League's Cup is chaos and it's a beautiful thing. Toluca has looked incredibly impressive. You have America, Cincinnati, and Columbus. So 4 teams that I think have the ability to win the competition. For me, that's what makes the Central the second best division. Just a ton of quality here. Nashville would expect that maybe they can.
5 teams.
Who's the 5th?
Columbus, Toluca, Club América, Cincy, and Nashville. Nashville could 1-0 their way to a trophy. I think so.
I'm not a believer.
Yeah, not sold on that one.
I don't believe it. But we'll see. They have a tough start. I think the best match of this one is Chicago America. Just off that stadium is going to be absolutely popping. Bridgeview, baby.
Home of Chicago.
Bridgeview. We're calling it back. We're calling it back to the El Qua days.
Yeah.
Cuauhtemoc Blanco didn't make this thing jump as much as America is about to. But also, look, the Fire have won 6 of their last 8 games, all comps.
Yeah. This is the best they've been playing in
Easily.
5-6 years.
Easily.
Joaquin Torres subbed in at halftime and dapped up like every player on Puebla. It was like Doyle coming back, where it was like everyone's like,
Joaquin Torres.
Joaquin's here. Am I making up a name? Did I just
Hyro?
Yeah,
Hyro.
Yeah, it's like the guy for Philly.
Yeah, Philly.
You know what's
Joaquin
sad?
Torres came to the game just to hang out.
As soon as you
right.
said that, I was like, how do you not know? Because I will never forget the Michele Giannone MLS Today segment on Hyro Torres.
Yeah, true.
That was
He's gonna,
a legend.
he's gonna be a legend.
Just a legendary segment. Right
Do
there.
you? So for Columbus, I feel like Minnesota and Toluca are bad matchups for them, and I worry about the setup. Like we're all coming in on a high against Club America, and I just feel like Minnesota are going to be very pragmatic and wait for the gaps.
In
to
Bongi's
open.
form and Reynoso's
Yeah.
form is pretty lightning.
And then Toluca also will spread the field wide and use all the space and open up all the channels. I think those are
and
uncomfortable.
Toluca would be entirely comfortable winning a game 5-4.
I think those are really uncomfortable matchups for them. I think SKC would be favorable, but I worry about Columbus sort of like coming off a cliff now.
I still go back to, I know you didn't agree, Doyle, but there were like 2 or 3 moments in that match against America where just naive defending, bad turnovers in their own third, like they still have that in the bag.
Mhm.
Where they can win 4-1, they can also lose 4-0, and they can play 4-4 games. And it's just sort of like drop of a hat. Did Schulte make a save? Did he let it go underneath him? Did Zawadzki just like hand a ball to somebody in a bad spot? Do we not read the cutback? Like, I don't know. They're entertaining because anything can happen. I would love to see Toluca, Columbus, America, Cincy, and then have the winners of those face off. I mean, this could be a really, really fun group. What's it named?
Oh, I'm doing all the naming?
No, I threw it out to
Well,
anybody.
this is your region.
Yeah.
So you...
Funnel cake. It's the most Midwest of things.
Oh my god.
That's
Funnel cake.
amazing.
It's summer, baby.
That is
State
so
fair in the
good.
Midwest. Could be the corn dog region.
I think that's better.
You like
The
that
corn
better?
dog
The
region.
fried Snickers?
Yeah. Okay.
I was thinking like the hot chicken region, or like is it,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I
that's,
just don't think
that's
Nashville's
giving
gonna be
too
a-
much credit
It's too
to one
regional.
spot.
Yeah.
Right.
This needs to
Okay.
be universal.
I
Anybody
mean,
in
the
that
hot
zone-
chicken is also like the signature food of Columbus, Ohio, right?
Is
So
it?
it's Nashville
really?
and Columbus. Oh, Columbus doesn't have a signature food,
Well,
but
it's
they
hot
have.
dogs.
They exactly.
It's not hot dog region.
This is
Just
the hot.
like-
That's
just
right.
like
It's
Coney, a hot
Chicago.
dog region.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
the many different varieties, either wrapped in cornmeal and
it's
fried.
it's
or,
the corn dog region.
Yeah,
I think.
corn dog region.
I think that's a good
Central.
way. Yeah.
Okay.
But Weeby looked so Midwestern when he said funnel cake.
He did.
So it felt
He was
connected.
so
He was so
happy.
excited about it
who
too.
does-
who doesn't love a funnel
Like it feels
cake?
like if I look down there, there's just powdered sugar
Just-
everywhere.
just like just 2 of those white paper plates.
It's a
put
mess
together.
all the time.
All right, the East. Dave, take us through it.
So the best match in this one is quite obvious, which is the Hudson River Derby in the opening round at Red Bull Arena. New York Red Bulls hosting NYCFC. That's, I think, one of those where it's outside of the round of 32. Like you're talking about when these teams face off. We saw it in the Open Cup. We saw the red cards. Like these teams obviously don't like each other. It's going to be a great environment. So that is one of those
But-
that stands out
But Dave,
outside of it.
MLSsoccer.com told me Philadelphia DC is a historic rivalry in this league
Did they?
for many years.
Yeah. Did you write that piece?
Yes.
I bet you did. Not even shocked by that. So you got Philly DC, where Philly's probably going to win 4-1. Then Pumas hosting Querétaro at Audi Field. And then you've got Atlas against New England, obviously at Gillette Stadium. We don't know what's happening with Petrovic or the rest of New England. That one's thrown up. Atlas, I thought, has actually looked like they've reverted back a bit to what they were last year when they won back-to-back titles. I think Rocha controlling the
they
game.
They don't have Julian Quinones.
They don't have the
Torch,
goal scoring.
yeah.
But when you look at that region, if they got past New England, I don't think they need that goal scoring against Pumas and Querétaro. It'll be a miracle if Querétaro beats Pumas, and I don't think Pumas is competitive to win this whole thing.
especially without Juan Dineno,
Yeah.
who it looks like is going to leave Pumas for Cruz Azul.
He's got a flight to Dallas right now.
How
It's
much
an
does
easy
it hurt,
trip.
by the way, for DC to have to go on the road while Pumas, who beat
Yes.
them, play
Plays
at
in
their
their
stadium?
building. It is set up for Philly. It is set up for Philly to play at home the entire way. It's set up for Philly to run the table. Philly NYCFC in the next round it's been the match.
Yeah.
Back-to-back Eastern Conference finals. There are obviously some new pieces, but that's been sort of the story of the Eastern Conference when you look back, I think, in 10 years to this segment in time. And I just think the region goes through Philly, and I'm not going to give them the Philly cheesesteak for the whole region. It's got to be like the pizza region.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Fair.
What
A New
kind of
York
pizza?
slice.
The biggest question in this region, other than Dineno, right? Because his move isn't official yet. It might be by the time you listen to this, but as we're recording, it's not yet official. The new Algerian striker for NYCFC.
100%.
Because NYCFC still play really good ball.
And they also officially signed Julian Fernandez today.
Okay.
Like,
Oh,
10
and
minutes into
also
the show.
Maxi Morales CL Merlo says Maxi Morales
Morales
is
is-
coming back.
Yeah.
Stop. That is
The craziest thing, like
unreal.
I just went and looked at the Maxi Morales picture when he's revealed by Racing. Not a hint of gray in that beard. The picture that they include of him coming back.
Aged like he's a
Oh
president.
my gosh, he's just
Oh.
grayed out.
But anyway, if this, I'm sorry, I forget the name of the Algerian number 9.
Youssef Bakrar.
Thank you. If he is as good as he looked against Toronto, and that is a massive asterisk because it was against Toronto, that is significant because NYCFC, I still think they have all the pieces to be one of the best teams in the league. They have just missed that focal point up top, and for 70 minutes against the worst team in the league, he fit the bill and he made everyone better with his movement. I can't wait to see the Hudson River Derby to see if he can replicate that against a much better defensive team.
Gabi Pereira leaving. Did that break your soul?
It
for a
that
little?
hurt. That hurt a little bit, but I understand why they said yes to that kind of price tag, and I understand why the kid says yes because it's life-changing money for you and like your kids and your kids' kids. You have to do it.
So we have the Mission Burrito region, corn dog region, and now the pizza region. On to the south. Stefano.
Obviously, the biggest game here is, no, without a doubt, Charlotte Cruz Azul.
Oh,
right?
God,
Yeah,
what is
that's
this?
the one.
That's
That's
a
the one,
classico.
right? That's the one.
In Frisco. So
The
Obviously,
Azul Derby.
obviously, it's Miami, Orlando, but we're going to get to that in just a second. As far as the rest of this group goes, I think Mazatlan has been just so fun to watch. Their story's great. I don't know
Their
how that's going to
uniforms
go.
are
The uniforms
amazing.
are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so aesthetically, it's just so pleasing to watch them on the pitch. Charlotte Cruz Azul, we were joking, but I think that the game could be so open and kind of wild that it could be extremely entertaining to watch.
It also is a true neutral site.
True neutral site, even though there will be
A lot
Quite
of
a
Cruz
That will
Azul
not
Cruz
be,
Azul
that will not
fans.
be a neutral site.
Neutral.
That will be-
You don't think
yeah.
the Dallas section of the Charlotte FC supporters
the
group
Charlotte,
will-
the Charlotte
will take
diaspora
one
in
side?
Dallas
Yeah.
is just very strong.
Pachuca, we haven't seen in the tournament yet. They're kind of in a flux. Obviously, a lot of turnover in that squad. Houston can be good, but they can't really score a ton of goals. So it'll be interesting to
Talking
see.
about a team that should get Juan Dineno. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Miami, Orlando. Obviously, we got Messi, we got Busquets. For me, it's more exciting to just kind of see this rivalry really hasn't taken off yet. And I think that's going to be the beginning of what can really start to be an organic rivalry between Miami and Orlando. There's going to be a ton of Orlando fans. I mean, not a ton, but there will be some Orlando fans as well.
Do you have a preferred name for that rivalry as a Floridian?
We said Clásico del Sol.
I like El Clásico del Sol.
I don't know. I need to kind of like really see how it plays out to really give it a
How
proper.
do you feel
I'll
about
come back.
Orlando as a Miami guy? The city,
Look, there's a rivalry there. Like,
people.
it couldn't be more different, right? The market's completely.
Tell us what a Miami person thinks about Orlando.
Kissimmee Lake is not like South Beach.
Yeah, no, not quite. What it was, South Florida people think of Orlando is we're going to Disney for a couple days and we're leaving as soon as we possibly can. So that's what most South Florida fans will think of Orlando.
Maybe stop at the outlets. Like, let's be honest.
Sure, fine.
Tell
Sure.
me what you'll think of Orlando when the Magic win more games than the Heat this year.
Yikes! Whoa.
Is that real? Is
Franz
that really?
Wagner
Is that a
high.
real? Is that can we place a bet
How many
on
minutes?
that?
Doyle's back and the NBA's back, baby. Let's go.
Let's go, baby! I love it. I love it.
Well, when Damian Lillard's playing for the Utah Jazz.
Right.
Right. Yeah. We'll wait. I'll wait for that one. Well, let's make the bet now before that trade goes through, and then we'll talk. No, look. I think it's going to be super fun to see Miami. What we're seeing though with Inter Miami, with this group, with this region, they do if they can play like they did against Atlanta United. Obviously, it's going to be a little tougher than when Atlanta United made it, but this is an opportunity for them to go all the way to the semis.
This is a softie, this region.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. We're going to name this region just because we have the two Florida teams. So it's obviously a very big Cuban influence there. We also have a lot of Mexican teams in this region. So we're going to go to a food that can be used in both. Arroz and frijoles.
Nice. Yeah.
The rice and beans region.
I like this.
Yeah,
that's where we're going.
It's good stuff. Everyone can unite amongst that.
Come on.
I love it.
Come on.
It's universal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about the game from your perspective, Doyle. I get like locked into, some narratives here. My brain just starts going, Orlando. I just can't help it with Joseph Martinez there. Tata
I thought you were just
Martino.
going to have him talk about the sport in general. Tell me about the game.
Yeah. What do you see here?
What struck me about
And also from Messi, we haven't gotten your thoughts on Messi.
yeah, he's decent. What
Doyle's
struck,
not a huge Messi.
what struck me about Miami in those two games, well, the last half hour of the first game, the Cruz Azul game, and then against Atlanta, is this was a team that looked so disorganized and so unbalanced basically every time I watched them this year. And then you plug Messi in at right wing and you plug Busquets in as a 6, and you have 2 8s in front of him who run, right? Kremovsky's a nice player. He's a runner first and foremost. Dixon Arroyo, runner first and foremost. And it just worked. And it got me thinking, like, it's Messi and a team that makes sense around him of guys who will do the work. That has been a blueprint for winning titles for 17 years.
Yep.
That's like it just happened like that. This was a team that had nothing figured out, and then they dropped everything figured out. Now, there is the danger of a false positive because, as David pointed out, Atlanta's a disaster. They're just a disorganized team. Allowing Messi to run the game like that for 70 minutes and not fouling him once. Cesar Rojo's not going to do that, right? Like Wilder Cartagena he's not going to.
Cesar Rojo he's just sharpening him up.
Yeah, oh yeah,
You think Poppy had the film session where he was like, these were all opportunities to foul. Right?
100%. And so I think that is going to be,
Pedro Gallese is going to foul.
the challenge for Miami is going to be, can you still fight through? And we know Messi can fight through. Nobody in the history of the game has fought through more fouls and more opposing game plans. But the guys around him, Dixon Arroyo and Robert Taylor, and even Joseph is going to have to be smart and understand how you create room for Busquets and Messi to operate. I think it'll be fine. I think this is actually going to be a really good game. I think it's going to end up being 3-2. And look, usually in tournament play, the team with the best player wins.
This in abstract, I think.
So Orlando's going to win because of Duncan McGuire.
obviously.
I think this would be a Leo Campagna game because of what you said, which is like, and this is going to be the model the whole season, which is when all the numbers go to Messi, who can take advantage of the space.
Right.
Joseph's not really that guy anymore, but the relationship I think has been established where it's like if Messi's on the field and Joseph's available, Joseph goes first. But I think Campagna would use the space better. But one thing is, you talked about like flip of the switch. There's some credit to Chris Henderson of like, he thought this was going to happen and they built it this way.
He deserves so much credit for this because like clearly he had an inkling And he was just so methodical and so smart.
Patient.
Patient.
Just waiting.
And got a gift with the Bryce Duke, Kamal Miller trade, right? Like getting a starting caliber center back and 1.3 million worth of allocation cash. Obviously, that allowed some flexibility to do some stuff.
Brought Bryce Duke in,
Yeah,
to have the asset to move on.
Yep.
Where you talk about some teams, like we started talking about with Austin, like what are the assets? They don't really exist. So he set that up for that team. Dixon Arroyo.
Yep.
How many teams would Dixon Arroyo be around the starting 11? He's the fifth or the third option at central midfield that he went out and got.
It's to what you were saying, right? About just how building the correct team around Messi can, will ultimately get you trophies. It can get you trophies. We saw it literally in December with the World Cup team. 2014 for Argentina was arguably the most talented Argentina team that Messi has ever been on. It didn't work. They got to the final, fine. You could say it worked. It wasn't great. Even in the knockout stages, it wasn't convincing. We saw it with this last World Cup. They built the team the correct way around him to give him the freedom and the space that he needed, and they won the World Cup. Yeah. So when you're building this squad, you could see that's what Henderson's trying to do. I mean, we can't talk enough. We haven't seen him yet, but Farias and Gomez, those are players that all fit exactly the way that Messi gives Messi the freedom to find his space, to get onto wherever he wants to go, to receive the ball, find the guys running, get space himself to move forward and go into the attack. I truly believe, and we could say it's been a small sample size. It has. We've seen him on the pitch for 100 minutes combined. But that's why I'm kind of high on them, just because they're building the team correctly around him. And if everyone can stay healthy, I do believe that this is the right build for Messi to go on and have success and hopefully get a trophy for them.
The one question, and I don't really know what else you could have done. We will find out is has it been too long? Like, is there enough time to make the playoffs? Now, if they win Leagues Cup, which I think we're saying one because of the way they've played, but also, as you pointed out, the region that they are in, like this is extremely winnable for them to at least get to a semifinal. They'll qualify for CONCACAF Champions Cup next year.
If they get to the final or they win the third place game.
So that alone is an accomplishment for this year.
Also,
like you've put your team where you can actually plan around Messi into a regional competition in what will be full year one.
Also, every game that you get ahead of the Open Cup semifinal.
True. Yeah.
To integrate Messi is a better opportunity you have to win that competition, to win something, but then again, to also get into the CONCACAF Champions Cup.
But on the league,
it's all rice and beans, baby. That's it.
I can't wait to see Messi at Deportivo Saprissa next year in the CONCACAF Champions Cup.
It'll be Torsten Frings when he was playing in Nicaragua. And you're like, what is this?
Give me Violette with the big tree and the ladder in the background.
In the DR.
Yeah, we need some of that good stuff. How far do they go?
You guys,
well, in there, how far is this Miami team going?
In this bracket, in Leagues Cup, I say the semifinal.
Yeah, I have them losing to Philly in the semis.
Final. It's going to be awesome to see. Also, speaking of where we're going to see Messi in Chester, PA. That's going to be one to watch.
I didn't know where I put them, but I put them in the semifinals as well, and I have them beating the Crew
in the final,
and not in the final, in the third place game, in the most hyped third place game in the history of extra time.
Aiden Morris and Messi.
CCC spot on the line.
If they get to Dallas, I think that will be an interesting one to me as well. Obviously, one, to see Messi go on the road for the first time and like what the whole atmosphere looks like. But Dallas have been clean defensively.
Wow, FC Dallas are praying.
Yeah. No, Dallas put out the article when the draw happened of like, here are the 18 things that need to happen for us to host Messi. And they are pretty close. They're 2 wins away. But Dallas have been clean defensively. They leave a lot of numbers behind the ball. And I think, again, similar to what you talked about Orlando, like I think that's going to be the model of how teams play. So I just would be curious to watch that go down. And obviously, Jesus Ferreira comes out as the winner in that whole thing.
All right. Well, round of 32 starts on, what is today?
Today's Tuesday. Tomorrow's Wednesday.
That's important information that I am currently struggling with. This tournament has been awesome, but it has been an absolute schedule breaker.
Just got that confirmed by my iPhone. Today is, in fact, Tuesday.
How about that?
Confirmed. Tuesday, August 1st. Yes. So Wednesday, August 2nd, round of 32, and it just rolls on from there. Remember, when there aren't games, we are in the studio recording. We'll ask for your questions, comments, whatever else you have on your mind. With that, welcome back, Doyle. It's good to have you. Adios.